For over 1,200 years, church bells have called the faithful to worship, helped us to celebrate triumph and tragedy. But the fact that they are one of the largest and loudest musical instruments in the world is often overlooked. This is something musical innovator Charles Hazlewood wants to change.
Something about the sound of bells, even as a very small child, hearing them issuing from our village church, you get this amazing, unearthly, ghostly, sort of ethereal sound. This sense of the music kind of coming almost as if we're out of the earth. If I'm honest with you, I'm really sad about the fact that there's only one grand piece of symphonic music I can think of that really exploits the potential of towers near and far in a performance, and that's the 1812 overture. I mean, look, the reasons why you don't find more church bell or tower bell pealing in orchestral music is pretty obvious, isn't it? You can't exactly take an orchestra to a tower, and you can't bring the tower into the concert hall. But, you know, they're such a powerfully evocative part of Englishness, the English landscape, and they're great carriers of drama. So what I want to see is if we can go right back to ground zero, as it were, with these amazing ancient instruments and really make some fabulous music.
With a track record of innovative and exciting performances, Charles wants to see if church bells can be used to make original music in their own right.
I'd just love to hear what would happen if you had a three-note chord.
These things have never been done, Charles. You're pushing back the barriers.
Charles is going to immerse himself in the world of bells and bell ringing. He will discover what can and can't be achieved with these neglected musical instruments.
I mean, it's like Heath Robinson comes to the bell tower, really, isn't it?
At the end of it all, Charles hopes to bring different worlds together in a unique piece of music, the like of which has never been heard before. Conductor Charles Hazlewood has given himself the challenge of devising and mounting a piece of music just for bells. And as the stage for his unique musical adventure, he has chosen the Market Square in the centre of Cambridge.
When I came up with this scheme, I was very clear about the thing we needed, which is a central space like this, and close by, working bell towers. Now, that may sound like an easy thing to deliver. In fact, it's not at all. The fact is, in the UK, at least 50% of all the churches that have actually got towers don't have bells, either that work at all or maybe the bells have been removed. So I've searched the country high and low, and I've ended up here in Cambridge, because here in this wonderful square, we've got 3 working bell towers. Fantastic. Over there is Great St Mary. Just round the corner there, you've got St Edward's, and then just over there, St Andrew the Great. All 3 towers in magnificent working condition.
Great St Mary's, overlooking the Market Square, has dominated bell ringing in Cambridge for over 300 years. Here, in the Middle Ages, the university bell ringer would ring the start and end of meals, lectures and prayers. And it was here that the Westminster chimes were invented. The tunes Big Ben strikes every quarter hour.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Charles.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, David. Hello. Good to meet you.
David Pipe is the ringing master here at Great St Mary's, and George Unsworth is the ringing secretary. They have offered to help Charles in his musical adventure.
I love the sound in between the strikes when the bell is on the move.
Yeah.
Beautiful
sound. Absolutely, yeah.
Their first task is to help Charles understand the basics of how bell ringing actually works.
A bell has 2 strokes to it. We have a hand stroke, where you are holding onto the furry bit called the sally, and the backstroke. The most important thing is that what happens to this, after you've pulled it, it goes through the ceiling, through that rather small hole there. So if you're still holding it while it goes through that rather small hole...
Let's face it, we've all seen those cartoons,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
This is it. This is for real. No, it's not coming yet. Put your arms down. Right, you ready now?
Hungry for it.
Here it comes.
I like.
and pull. That's it.
The bells here weigh up to a ton and swing with huge momentum.
There we go.
Charles must pull with just enough force to ease the bell off its upright position
That was good.
and propel it around a full circle.
You could feel it then. And
Right on the cusp.
you pulled quite hard then.
The other factor is timing. The ringer should pull just as the bell reaches the top of its swing. Pull too soon or too late, and he risks losing control.
Oh, let go.
That's what goes
Yeah, that's it.
So what happened there? I thought it's come down, is it?
It didn't go up.
Right.
You were pushing it up, effectively. When You held on a little bit. So how are your hands?
Hands are all right. Slightly shooting pain up the back, I must say.
Yeah.
But there we are. All in a day's work.
In the Middle Ages, bells were swung from side to side by a rope attached onto or near the head of the bell. It was the Reformation that changed everything. In a wave of anti-Catholic iconoclasm, church fixtures and fittings were destroyed up and down the country. As the nation's bells were recast and rehung, craftsmen took advantage of the latest technology and mounted their bells on wheels. Now ringers could control the timing of the bell. The direct result was change ringing, the sound of bells being played one after another that we hear every Sunday morning. Change ringing quickly became a hugely popular secular hobby. Groups sprang up in almost every town and city, vying with each other for recognition. There are now about 40,000 ringers across the country. But amazingly, the wheel mechanism and change ringing never took root on the continent, where they still use the medieval system. The ringers of Great St Mary's belong to the Cambridge Youths, one of the oldest ringing societies in the world. There's been change ringing in this room since at least 1724.
So what's going to happen is that Patrick behind us is going to start calling pairs of bells to swap. And gradually swapping the pairs of bells will produce a different sequence. And this is one that's called Whittington's.
7 to 11.
As nice as it may sound to the ear, no one in this room is trying to make music. The bells are numbered 1 to 12 from the highest to the lowest, and the ringers are simply swapping the order they're rung in to create ever-changing sequences of notes.
8 to 9.
So that's number 8 over number 9. Yep.
8 to 11.
This is called change ringing, a system that has barely altered in over 350 years. And although it's simple in theory, it requires furious concentration. It's the raw material Charles has to work with.
Oh, hi, that was amazing. Turn again, Whittington, I do believe. Incredible. Musically speaking, let's face it, bells haven't got a great deal to recommend them. They can only play loud. They can only play on beats. They can't even do dotted rhythms or syncopations. They certainly can't pick out melody. Plus the fact that bell ringers don't think in the same way as a musician like me. They don't think even in terms of tunes or melody. They're thinking in terms of numbers. 8 to 11. So that's a challenge, for me as much as for them, to find some common ground in the middle. We don't want to end up with something which just sounds like a kind of artful experiment. We've got to end up with something which is just bloody good music.
Charles is starting to understand the musical constraints of church bells and change ringing, but more challenges lie ahead.
I've come up here to the top of the tower at Great St Mary's to sort of get the lie of the land, to see where my various musical components are going to be. So the Market Square's down there. Beyond that, you can see the Tower of St Andrew the Great, tower number 2. And then over here, St Edward's. I've never conducted anything where the individual musical elements are this far apart before. I simply have no idea if I'm going to be able to make it work.
One thing that will greatly help create a harmonious piece of music is if the bells of the different churches are in tune with each other. Great St Mary's has a modern ring of 12 bells beautifully tuned in the key of D major. Charles' second church is St Andrew the Great. Rebuilt in 1842, the medieval church on this site used to guard one of the gateways to the old city.
4 to 5.
Now, the University Guild of Ringers hold their practice sessions here every Thursday night.
Bravo, guys. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. They don't seem that loud, the bells outside. Are there windows in place or anything like that? Or is it just that's what they
large
are?
wooden sheets over all the louvres. Because there's a college just over the road, we've heavily dampened the sound of the bells.
Do you think you'd be allowed to take those off?
They're fairly permanent, aren't they?
Anyway, if you can't remove the baffles, you can't remove the baffles. You've got 8 bells here, haven't you?
Yes.
8 bells, nice descending major scale, about A major, I'd say, roughly. Does anyone agree with that?
Well, the authority of these things believes they're in G.
Does
but,
he?
That's open to dispute.
Yeah, well, I suppose it depends what part of the country you're from. We've all got relative pitch.
G or A, any ringing here won't be in tune with the D major bells at Great St Mary's. Charles' final church is St Edward's, just off the southwest corner of the Market Square. St Edward's holds a unique place in English history. Here, in 1525, standing in what is now called the Latimer pulpit, Robert Barnes gave one of the first sermons of the English Reformation. Here, Charles will be working with Tower Captain Ali Finn.
So we go through the tower door here.
Ali first became involved with the church in 1994 as part of a restoration effort to save its original medieval bells.
They're amazingly old, aren't they? They look almost like Grecian urns.
Yes. So this is the base of the old frame,
Yeah.
the actual oak frame that the bells were hanging in, which, as you can see, is quite fragile.
It's lovely you've been able to keep it, though, in essence, the
Yes.
original structure.
Yeah.
All the bells here are 17th century or earlier, but Sancta Anna, cast in 1470, is one of the oldest ringable bells in the county.
It's a bit narrow as you come through here. And here we are, on the gallery.
But what a great view.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see everything going on down there, and more to the point, perhaps they can see you at work.
Yes, yeah. And you often catch the little children, especially down in the corner there, they're looking up to see how the sound's being made, and all these people pulling on these ropes.
At St Ed's, Charles has a ring of 6 bells in the scale of D major. They should match Great St Mary's perfectly. But they were cast over a period of 200 years, when bell technology was in its infancy.
Right. So that's the tenor.
Okay, well, that's roughly an A. Very nice.
So now the oldest one.
A very bright B. One thing that's really interesting about these bells, and I'd say more than at Great St Mary, is that when the clapper rests on the bell, it damps it very fast. You don't get that ringing on.
This one will probably sound louder because it's nearer the door.
Charles has now heard all the bells at his disposal, and no one set matches another. Nothing on this project is turning out as he had expected.
Beautiful. Before I set out on this journey of discovery into bells, I had some, I think, what I realised now, totally outlandish notions of what might be possible. I thought in my mind that actually it would be perfectly possible, for instance, to ghost out the elements of a theme, a tune, in one tower, and then about halfway through just pass it on seamlessly to the next tower, which should then pass it on seamlessly to the third tower. I mean, that's pie in the sky, completely impossible. The very idea that you can actually get towers in separate places to synchronise with each other, as I now realise, it's a completely nuts idea. But when you're working creatively, it actually gets interesting when you recognise the limitations around what it is you're trying to do. In a way, if the sky was always the limit, I'd be embarrassed by the range of choice.
Charles is ready to start devising his bell extravaganza. But before he does, he's come to visit Taylor's Bell Foundry in Loughborough. Up close and personal with bells, Charles has realised that each one produces a complex sound full of different notes. Taylor's are one of only 2 bell foundries remaining in the UK, and it was here that the art of bell tuning was perfected more than 100 years ago.
This is the main part of the works. The works was built here in 1859.
Specifically for the bell foundry?
Specifically for it. Across the road, through those double doors over there, is where the bells are moulded and cast. Down the far end, we've got the joiner's shop, which is where all the woodwork that we need is made.
That's where the wheels are made?
That's it, stays, sliders, all sorts of bits and pieces. And the really exciting bit for me is the room over there, which is the tuning shop, where the bells that come across from the foundry get tuned and turned into musical instruments.
Every bell produces thousands of different notes called partials. As bellmaster, it's Andrew's job to tune these partials.
So what we've got is a modern bell that's harmonically tuned. If memory serves me, it's somewhere around about note B. But what we're actually hearing there is not just one note. There are 5 very obvious notes, fairly low down in the human hearing range. The lowest is where the whole bell is resonating in and out, if you can imagine that. And that's called the hum note. And now the next partial is an octave above that. Again, another note B. It's magic, isn't it?
Beautiful.
Yeah. And then we've got a minor third, which is the mournful sound that you get out of a church bell.
Right, there it is.
And then there's another octave, another B, it's the nominal. That one is the most important one in terms of determining the pitch of the bell. Because although it doesn't come out very strongly when you hit it with a fork, it's that one that drives the pitch that the ear perceives. If I strike the bell again, all of a sudden you can hear all of those partials. The mind can reconcile it because it's just had it pointed out to it.
Why is it that a bell produces so many notes?
It's to do with the complexity of the shape. You've got, if you like, the marrying together of 2 shapes. You've got this vase-shaped aspect to the bell where it comes up and it's flared out, and there are some modes of vibration that are involved in the whole body of the bell, certainly the hum note, which is the lowest one that we can hear. In addition to that, you've got the ring-driven mode of vibration, which is, if you could imagine, lopping the top part of the bell off and just having a ring of metal, and imagine that vibrating in a mode that's effectively at right angles to the way that the whole body vibration goes, and that is the one that gives the very much more intense harmonics.
Up until the 19th century, tuning a bell was an unsophisticated process that consisted largely of hacking chunks of metal from the rim of the bell. But in the 1860s, John William Taylor I became obsessed with the fact that all English bells sounded out of tune. For decades, he and his sons experimented until they had devised a completely new system of tuning. Using perfectly pitched tuning forks and a huge vertical borer, Taylors started to reach parts of the bell which had hitherto been left untouched, allowing the main partials in the bell to be isolated and tuned.
Machining metal out of the bell counterintuitively actually lowers the pitch of the bell. By machining metal, say, out of the corner of the bell, we can lower the fundamental. By machining the sound bow of the bell, we can lower the nominal.
That's a lot of metal that's come out of there.
Yes. So this is the computer program, and you see there's a discrete set of peaks which relates to each of the partials. A desired finish pitch, and then it tells you in cents, which is hundredths of a semitone, how far away we are from that. And having seen that, I can then relate that to how much metal needs to be machined off it in order to get the finished result.
Obviously, this is of paramount importance, because if you took too much off, you've blown it.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
Well, you don't look worried.
Well, we're a bell foundry.
Taylors produced their first set of harmonically tuned bells in 1896. Since that date, they have cast and hung some of the most important bells in the country. Among them, in 2009, the 12 bells of Great St Mary's in Cambridge. Charles has decided that whatever music he creates with tar bells, change ringing must be at the heart of it. And one of the ringers from Great St Mary's, Philip Ayres, has offered to help him compose something completely new for the event.
From my side, I think there are several very attractive arrangements of bells. So I say we start with rounds, a straight scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's a very well-known change where all the odd-numbered bells ring first and all the even-numbered bells ring after that. So the interval...
Dum, dim, dum, dum, dim, dum, dim, dum, dum.
Exactly, exactly. And that change is called queens. OK, so your challenge is to get to go from here to here, but moving only one bell at a time.
Oh, goodness, it's like doing a Rubik's Cube.
It is. We might start just swapping 6 and 7.
What Philip is composing is called a method, a mathematical pattern for ringers to follow so that they can ring countless changes without repeating any. The earliest methods have names like Grand Sir and Plain Bob, and were first recorded in 1668 by Fabian Stedman in his book Tintinologia. Methods allow ringers to ring changes almost endlessly, but any performance of 5,000 or more is recorded for posterity and called a peal.
The longest peal that has been rung, which I was in and which David Pipe was in, was 72,000 changes on 6 bells. That lasted a bit over 24 hours.
What did you do about, like, toilet breaks?
That was slightly delicate. We, for food, drink and toilet breaks, as you might imagine, there are some challenges there. We managed to, this was ringing handbells, so we had 2 handbells each, so our hands went through.
Did someone else have to, you know?
No, there was once a peal of 40,000 changes rung on tower bells, and for toilet breaks, a bucket was passed around for that. That was an all-male band. We had a sort of arrangement which that babies more frequently are used to, really, to cover for our toilet breaks.
Did you? And of course, it must feel terrible if you are the one that lets the side down.
Once when I was ringing a long peal, the ringing broke down after about 13 or 14 hours. Because we'd been ringing for quite a long time, one of the ringers tried to feed themselves. It was like a Greek tragedy watching the bell just go from order into chaos.
So what did you do? You walked out with your tails between your legs?
There was a bit of silence for a while, then we decided we would go to the pub and have a few beers and find a date when we could do it again. And in due course, we did manage to complete that peal.
Anyhow, back to the work in hand. So.
That should be a 6.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10.
1, 3, 2, 5, 7, 4, 9, 6, 8, 11, 10, 12, 11, 9, 7, 5, 3, 1.
Well, my head is just bulging with numbers running through like some abacus gone mad. It definitely takes a very particular kind of mind, and a mind that I don't have, really. Philip, however, could eat, breathe and sleep numbers. He would feel complete comfort, I would have thought. It is really interesting to understand that within the world of music, which is a very broad world, there are some almost intangible things to some of us. You know, my whole approach to music, my experience in music and the way it's made has come from such a contrary position. Or not a contrary position, but a very different position from that. So I find it baffling. Interesting, but baffling.
With Philip, Charles has now devised one element of his piece of music. But the limitations of tar bells and change ringing are still causing him concern.
It's obvious to me that we should base the performance here in the Market Square. It's more or less equidistant between the 3 towers. But, and it's a big but, I had really hoped that the bell towers would be able to give me more melodic interest. But the fact is, for all sorts of good reasons, they're stuck in change ringing. I need another element. Also something which will root us here, to give us a reason to be here, to cement the whole thing together.
In search of a solution, Charles has come to Bottisham, a small village about 5 miles outside Cambridge. Here at Mary Batten's house, the Bottisham handbell ringers meet every Wednesday night.
Bravo! Thank you very much indeed. Wow, it's so nice to hear that sound. I've been in that kind of wonderful, great big brash world, which is tower bell ringing for the last few days, and to hear the sweet, unctuous tones of your handbells is a really lovely contrast to that. So I sense quite a lot of passion for handbell ringing around the room.
How long have we been ringing? About 24, 25 years? I would say.
This team has been ringing 24,
Yes,
25
not
years.
always, not the same people, obviously.
So how long have you been handbell ringing?
5 years.
And how long have you been ringing? Same. Okay, so you came into it together. Wow, that's an amazing thing. You know, I try and do things with my kids. It goes, Dad, it's embarrassing being with you. How lovely that you don't feel this about your mum.
He's saying nothing.
Moving on.
I'm intrigued to know that you've never played anything from memory, only because obviously the nature of it is that you are very, very
Yes.
focused on what's in front of you.
And we never smile.
No, you look like you're in a pleasurable mode.
Yes.
You don't look grim. But I'm intrigued because what is music if it's not communication? And so in a way, you know, when music really lifts off, certainly I find as a conductor, is when the orchestra with whom I'm working are so familiar with the music, they're finding the spaces in between having to hoover up the information, if you see what I mean.
Yes.
The difference with this is you're playing a part, and so it's not always as easy to pick up the direction of where you're going.
And that's such a valid point, isn't it? Because normally with any melodic instrument, you are used to spinning melodies, and you play all the notes of that melody, whereas you are all kind of individual components within a larger organism.
It's like a rehearsal, isn't it? If we've got one person missing, you haven't got the complete tune.
Have you tried ringing bells yourself?
A little tiny bit, not very much. Why, do you want to challenge me?
As with their weightier cousins, handbells have been around for centuries. In medieval times, they were used to ward off evil spirits and rung when someone passed away. But playing tunes on handbells really took off in the Victorian period. Competitions were held in the Bellevue Gardens in Manchester, attracting hundreds of teams. And in music halls up and down the country, tappers and novelty ringers became staple acts.
Hang on a minute.
We're not together at the end.
Oh, I missed the first time bar. I'm so sorry. Oh dear, oh dear.
I'm glad you get things right.
But I tell you what, the real challenge for me, I thought, blimey, it's suddenly a B flat, and I've got a B and an A here, and I'm like, this is so terrible, much to your amusement, I notice. Thanks for the support. It's a completely different way of thinking. It's fascinating. Well, look, it's been great to meet you all. Thank you for letting me come to your session. And I'll be seeing you all soon.
Yes,
Yeah.
true. Yeah, we look forward.
Great. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheerio, Charles.
Cheers, all the best.
Bye.
Bye, John.
Charles' plan is to devise a performance which combines some church bell change ringing with some handbell tune ringing. But these are two worlds which normally never mix.
You know, I could make a piece of music featuring bells work on a number of different levels. At the most sophisticated, it might be a wonderfully challenging experience for the players. But I think what's really clear is that, you know, there are certain limitations to the way that handbell ringers work, just as there are certainly limitations to the way that tower bell ringers work. I'm not going to be able to get them to do some wonderful extended thing with lots of kind of flashy passages, kind of fanfare-like moments. Indeed, I can't even create a piece which is going to involve too many different ideas. I think the key thing is going to be simplicity, so that everyone can kind of really lock into the groove, as it were, of one principal musical narrative. So I've got to be immensely careful about not being overly ambitious. And, you know, my instinct is always to try and push further, go further beyond. And I just have to rein that in slightly.
Determined to keep it simple, Charles decides to base his final piece around one well-known folk tune. For a long time, it was popularly held that Greensleeves was written by Henry VIII, a monarch with close connections to Cambridge. He founded Trinity College and completed the world-famous King's College Chapel. Now that Charles has chosen his tune, he must arrange it for handbells.
The key challenge for me is to find ways of marrying what are actually very disparate things, tower bells and handbells. Our performance will have started with some very fiery change ringing. Then off the back of that, the handbells can start very, very nakedly and gently to pick out the tune. By the time we're getting into the second verse, gradually I'm going to start to unleash more harmony from the handbells, and the kind of figuration I'm going to use is based on the changes. I've got here, written out on a stave, the exact notes of the changes that would have been played in the first portion of the piece by the towers. You see, like falling scales, ya-da-dee-da-dee-da-dee-da-dee-da-da-bom. That kind of thing is going to be the essence of the harmony I'm creating, so that the handbells have a direct correlation to what the tower bells have been doing.
Charles has managed to gather 30 handbell players from across the eastern counties and borrow 2 5-octave sets of bells.
I've got some sympathy with Rossini right now. Rossini, amazing Italian composer, very fast composer, and he'd write operas in sort of record time, but he'd leave the overture till the end, because the overture is the first piece of music the audience hears. It introduces all the themes, all the main kind of characters of the drama, which will then unfold. So obviously, it's the last thing the composer invariably writes. And Rossini would apparently leave the writing of the overture later and later and later, on some occasions even to the very day of the first performance. And the theatre managers would be tearing their hair out saying, when, oh when, is Rossini going to write the overture? And apparently they would lock him in a room. And he was a great lover of his food and his drink. They give him 1 plate of cold pasta and 1 glass of wine, and he wasn't allowed out till he'd finished.
Although some handbell players work from numbers in the same way as tower bell ringers, everyone here tonight can read conventional musical notation.
The D on the quavers is the first note. Yes.
Most simply mark in their own parts.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. First of all, it's fantastic to have you all here. Thank you so much for giving up part of your precious Saturday to come and involve yourselves in this kind of experiment, strange and hopefully wonderful musical experiment based around bells. Now, the tune that I want to use at the heart of this piece is Greensleeves. It contains that kind of essential English quality, what Shakespeare called the dying fool. In other words, it's essentially melancholic, as I suppose we all are, essentially a little melancholic. You know, it does rain a lot in our country. And the thing about the dying fool, if you think about it, da-dee-da-da-da-da, dying fool, da-da-dee-da-da-da-da, dying fool. Right, and that repeats. Brief burst of sunshine in the chorus, da-da-da-da, dying fool, da-da-dee-da-da-da. Right? There we are. That's the English race, personified in melody, as far as I'm concerned. So, let's have a little go and see how we get on. So nice and slow. 1, 2. Gong. 1, 2, 3. 1. Okay, good. Ladies and gentlemen, fantastic for a first effort. Fantastic. Now, ladies and gentlemen, look carefully at bar 66. Hands up here who's a tower bell ringer. 2. Well, I'm very pleased to say to you that Queen's has found its way into Greensleeves at exactly this point. Da-da-dee-da-dee-da-bee-da-dee-da-dee-da. Right? Hurrah! The tower bell comes to the handbell. So, let's try from 66 and see how we get on. There's a sudden and very spicy harmonic shift there, ladies and gentlemen. suddenly an F sharp major 7, which should shock the hell out of the audience. We'll just have a long pause on that magnificent chord. Now. Bravo, ladies and gentlemen. A very good evening's work. Thank you very much.
Charles is keen to find every means possible to draw his church bells and his handbells together. In his arrangement of green sleeves, the handbells imitate the church bells. And now, flying in the face of everything he's learned, he's going to try to get church bells to imitate the handbells. For this experiment, Charles has chosen St Edward's.
Hiya,
Ali, how's it going? Nice to see you.
Yeah, and you?
And Ali has brought along steeplekeeper and engineer Tom Ridgman for help.
Hi, Tom. Nice to
Tom's
meet you.
steeplekeeper here.
So you get the essence of what it is I'd like to achieve.
You want chiming, you want music rather than just our plain old bell ringing routine.
Yeah, we've got at the heart of our piece green sleeves, and it would be amazing to think that these 6 bells could play their part in actually sounding out elements of that melody. And I'm very aware that with the method of change ringing, that's not going to be possible.
Yeah, that's right. But there's a system that they use in churches called Elicum chimes, where they put hammers on the bells and they use strings and pulleys and stuff, and they can play them a bit like pianos that you can just play notes on.
So you're literally controlling the clapper hitting the bell?
Yeah, they normally have special hammers that attach to the bells, but we don't have that, but we can rig something up that sort of vaguely simulates that.
Fantastic.
That's kind of reasonably rigid. Tie around the clapper between the ball and the flight.
Tom's plan is to use string and a pulley to attach the clapper directly to the bell rope.
Right. There we go.
It's extraordinary. I mean, it's like Heath Robinson comes to the bell tower, really, isn't it? I think, we're on something, aren't we? It's so exciting that, they're blazing a new trail. They haven't tried this before. But it does mean that we could play something of a green sleeves, well, a fragment of the green sleeves melody on these bells. I'm really thrilled. I wonder if they'll be loud enough. But, we'll only know by trying.
That works.
When Tom and Ali have rigged all 6 bells, they gather the ringing team to see if they can make musical history.
So if we were to do the first phrase, we'd be going 5, 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
Should we just try that?
Yes, you're first.
So I'm 5, you're 3, 2, 1, right? So... Hear that? Yay! The first 4 notes of green sleeves. Amazing. Surely the first time ever in this amazing old tower.
Absolutely.
Should we now extend it? Obviously, we're missing a note because, strictly speaking, we go 5, 3, 2, 1. That 1, 2, 4, 6. Okay, so just see how far we get there.
Yeah, but you will need to come down.
All right. Yeah. Here we go then. So. Oh. Ba. Da, ba, ba.
How nice.
I'm just delighted with that. Do you think Henry VIII would be thrilled?
Yes.
I think he'd be thrilled, wouldn't he? And the other thing that's really historic about what we're doing, it seems to me, is that we are ringing dotted rhythms. Dum, dum, ba, bi, ba, ba, bi. Now, you never get dotted rhythms in change ringing, for obvious reasons. You just get, right?
Yep.
These bells must be thinking, what on earth is going on to us?
Things are starting to come together. The only thing Charles is missing is a rousing finale, something he hopes the ringers of Great St Mary's can help him deliver.
So what I'm really excited to hear is what would happen if you had a chord.
Yeah.
For instance, just 2 bells, then 3 bells, then 4 bells, then 5. Is that really hard to do?
That would be pretty hard to
Would
do,
it?
but we're going to do this. Okay, we'll do this. So, Phil's going to start, right? And we'll say 2 whole pulls, then 2 whole pulls, 2 whole pulls, and everyone joins in 2 whole pulls later. Okay?
Evan's going. She's gone.
Playing chords on church bells is rare. Sometimes on special occasions or at the end of a wedding ceremony, all the bells of the church will ring in unison. This is called firing, but it's never done quite like this.
Stand.
Yes! Oh, you've made an old man very happy. That's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
You were grinning from ear to ear
Well,
as
yes,
well.
yeah. Well, we don't do that every day or every year, really.
You're all in such great control of your bells. Presumably you could get periodically slower. You could do a rallentando, couldn't you?
Do a rallentando, yeah.
Yeah.
But
And how would that work? Would someone be calling? Would you call an upbeat or?
these things have never been done, Charlie. They're just, you're pushing back the barriers.
I'll push it back. Okay. So the only other thing I'd like to do is a more tuneful firing. I'd just love to hear what would happen if you had a 3-note chord.
Yeah. I can guarantee this is the first time this has ever been done. Rallentando. That was difficult.
Yeah, that was amazing. Really amazing.
We need to practice that.
Of course. But the principle is a good one, and it's so those 2 chords are so beautiful.
Yeah.
Charles now has all the elements for his final performance, and the groups are busy rehearsing their parts. But with everything going full steam ahead, Charles is taking a day out of his hectic schedule.
Hello.
Are you Trevor?
I'm Trevor. Hello, Charles. Good to meet you.
Thank you for having
Welcome
me
to
here.
Bourneville.
Charles has come to Bourneville, the model village created by the chocolate manufacturer George Cadbury in the 1890s. And he's here to see an extraordinary instrument, a cross between a church tower and an organ, called a carillon.
So now we have the carillon right in front of us here. There are 48 bells in total.
48 bells?
48 bells. The largest bell, which is the one right at the top there, is 3¼ tons in weight. And the smallest one is 12 pounds in weight. And it's chromatic 4 octaves, but with the lower C sharp missing.
The first carillon was built in Belgium 500 years ago. Despite widespread use throughout the Low Countries, carillons didn't make it over to England until George Cadbury had this one built in 1906. Trevor has been playing here every week since 1965.
blimey, what do I owe you for that then? That was extraordinary.
Whatever you think is worth.
I mean, you started off with quite a lick with your quavers, and I saw the semi-quavers go. I thought, oh my goodness me, how on earth is that going to be possible?
Yeah.
Whoa. One thing that you are absolutely able to get with this machine, this instrument, is light and shade. One of the things about tower bells, of course, is that there is really only one dynamic level. You can't affect how hard or otherwise the clapper hits the bell. Here you've got a lot of control.
Total control, yes. This mechanism here will either shorten or lengthen the linkage between the clapper and the key. So you've got that potential for pianissimo or
fortissimo, yeah. And of course the other thing that makes this different from a standard keyboard instrument is that, of course, you can't play chords, static chords. What you can do is arpeggiate, but that means you're very busy filling in the harmony all the time.
Absolutely.
You can't just put a chord down.
Although you're playing a piece of music that may have been written for the piano or some other instrument, you've got to try and produce the sound that was intended by the composer for the original instrument. And that involves doing a lot to convert it into music and to make it passionate, if that's the word. Does require effort. You need to exploit the full range of dynamics that the instrument's capable of giving, from the very loud, and obviously can be very loud, or very quiet as well.
Right, can I have a go?
Certainly you can, yes.
You mentioned this evening hymn. All right, so far?
That's a very familiar tune in vaudeville.
Charles is an organ scholar who has performed in public countless times.
I've slightly gone over, haven't I? God, blimey, it's very, very weird.
But the technique used to play a carillon is like no other instrument.
Something like that, and then how does one employ the left hand? My goodness me. I really can only do right hand and pedal.
We could do a duet, you know.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Charles has now experienced the full range of music bells have to offer. With nothing left to learn, it's time to unveil his unique bell extravaganza. Charles is going to be conducting the 3 church towers using a video link. This is a system common in operas where the conductor needs to signal to an offstage chorus, but it's never before been used to conduct bell towers.
For the purposes of our piece today, GSM is 1. Okay? Stags is 2. St Edward's will be 3. What could possibly go wrong? You can forget.
With the help of Max and Katrina, Charles fits the bells of St Andrew the Great with half muffles, leather pads designed to dampen the sound.
I just think it's going to sound stunning. I've never actually ever heard a half muffled ring before. Yeah, the moment of truth is fast approaching. I mean, we've had rehearsal time, but it's been in isolated chunks. It's like these are all separate building blocks, and it's only in the performance that we see if they fit together. So that is the most nerve-wracking thing about it. But, you know, I'm a chancer. I'm one of life's chancers, and in a way that's why I like performing, because when you get out there, the only way is forwards. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you all. We are here today to celebrate something very, very special and deeply ancient within our culture, and that is the music of bells. And we are, ladies and gentlemen, going to attempt something for you now which has never ever been attempted before. We're going to attempt to make a special piece of music which combines 3 sets of tower bells and about 30 handbells.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the bells of Cambridge, the sound of bells.
Everyone, take a bow.
Well done, you.
I started this experiment thinking, wouldn't it be amazing if this very particular kind of music that church bells make, could it be expanded upon? Could it extend beyond its slightly narrow parameters? And what I suppose I've learned as a result of doing this project is that no, it can't, in one respect. Bells are hung and work a certain way, so change ringing has a very good reason for existing as it does. But it's answered to me a whole bunch of questions about what you might combine that music with. Not only the handbells and their lustrous harmonies, but also the idea of bringing another tower and then another tower to bear on it. The very fact of change ringing occurring as it has always occurred, in combination with another tower also change ringing, but offset, you create a very special kind of music. It's one of the most delightful outdoor musical experiments I've ever been involved in.
Exploring the making of a holy city with a brand new 3-part series, The History of Jerusalem. That starts tomorrow at 9 over on BBC4. And here on BBC HD this evening, we're uncovering a treasure in stone in the Rosslyn Chapel. Next.